Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Pull Up Trade Podcast. I'm your co-host, Samson Folk. I'm joined by, of course, the Trey that pulls up, Trevon Heath. Last time I went long on the intro. I'm not doing that this time. I'm swinging it directly to you. How you feeling?
Any day the Raptors aren't losing is a great day for me, honestly. We're we're another day closer to the real holiday swing of things. So I'm happy. I'm loaded. I got a bevy of Christmas movies I'm about to watch across for this where my marathon season starts. So
What's
I'm
your
happy.
top Christmas movie?
I'm going to go with Best Man Holiday classic.
Wow. Two
What,
Americas.
what are you gonna say? Die Hard?
No, dude. Home Alone. Home Alone
It's
is,
fire.
and I'll say this. I can't remember if I've told the story on the podcast
Yeah.
before, but Oleg, his family's from Burundi. They used to
Mhm.
watch it in French, and they just call the movie Kevin. Like they
Okay.
say, "Let's watch Kevin," and I always thought that was incredibly funny. It's like it's not Home Alone, it's Kevin, because
Kevin.
he
Okay.
is the movie's about him.
Yes.
You're watching Kevin
No,
anyway.
it's nuts. I'm sorry. Macaulay Culkin is a humongous WWE fan. Anytime he goes on the screen, people go nuts for him for something that he did like 30 years ago. It's crazy.
Okay, so here's my question before we get into basketball. By the way, there will be timestamps, everybody. You can just click around. We're doing a Raptors wish list. Yes, that includes trade targets, schematic changes, hopefulness for shooting and driving, all that kind of stuff. But Trey, as a wrestling fan, because this has been a hotly contested topic amongst our friends, do you believe Timothee Chalamet's interest in wrestling, or do you think it's PR?
I think combination of both. Like
Okay.
for context, he was asked a question in an interview and he mentioned a very like the number one Reddit loved WWE event, which was ECW's like Last Stand. John Cena, like the figure of WWE, goes into ECW, which is basically like a 1990s hardcore version of wrestling. They're setting each other on fire. They're giving each other concussions and it was in Philadelphia, and fans said, "We are going to tear this arena apart if John Cena wins this match." It was cinema. He walks in with the belt like this. People are screaming. Philadelphia fans are giving him the middle finger. Incredible. But it's honestly one of the least watched events that you would ever hear about. So for you to like that, you need to be like of the 1% top fans. It's like saying Cam Spencer is my favorite prospect in the draft. If anyone else told you that, would you have believed them?
We're gonna bleep that name, by the way, but no, I wouldn't have. um, but you know that match, right?
Yes.
Timmy can't know ball like you. He can't
It
give the wrestling science.
it's just so obscure, but it's a great choice. It's elite. He just gives too many elite opinions on things. Maybe it's just the guy though.
Maybe he's elite. I don't know.
Yeah, that is an option.
Okay, so anyway, basketball, the Raptors, not quite elite. The numbers don't love them the exact same way they loved them before. Cleaning the Glass has them on pace for 49.9 wins. If they beat the Bucks, we're going north of 50 again for the projections. I think they're still third in the NBA or in the standings, the third seed ahead of the Boston Celtics. A couple games or 3 games behind the Knicks because they haven't played that many. And looking at Raptors team, that's doing pretty well. They are not perfect though, and so you and I have compiled a wish list together. Things we'd like to see happen for this Raptors team. So, the first thing on your wish list, what are you trying to have happen? It's Christmas themed, holiday themed for people who don't know.
I I think the first thing I'll work with what they currently have in like their defense. They're currently like bereft of on ball defensive talent. And one of the things I find fairly interesting, and I guess it's kind of in like the ethos of their team from last year, they ask their guys to stay in the action constantly. It's even if they're not the strongest defender, Manuel quickly hasn't had the greatest defensive season. They'll ask guys to stay on the screen, stay in the action, and defend your man. They try that as much as possible. That's why you have games where the Hornets decide we're going to pick on Emmanuel quickly down the stretch for 90 seconds, and they score 3 or 4 times in a row. you've seen actions where Grady Dick spit on guys he probably shouldn't be on. And what teams usually do to in anticipation of this is pre-switching. They'll get a guy out of the action, put him on the other side of the court, and so it allows great offensive players to stay on the court and give other teams some sort of a different look, and that leads to potentially in a CNB Grady Dick lineup where he's on the strong side of the court, pre-switching and throwing CNB there, so he's in the action. Grady's safe on the other side of the court. I think I think one thing that would help this team is leaning in on the guys that have defensive talent and can do that at a really high clip, similar to how they play differently in terms of like their pressing style defense when Jacoby's on the floor as comparatively to like any of their other guards.
I would like to see more of that as well. The point you make is a good one. Teams that are able to help out players typically do so. The Raptors, maybe it's a little bit tougher for them
Yeah.
because even though they've pulled back their press significantly, they still press a lot in the half court. They still have that high pickup point. And so if players aren't close together, it's harder to pre-switch. But that also kind of flows into another thing that we would like, which is, the press doesn't always have to be that high. And if you're
Yeah.
sitting a little bit lower, you might be in a stronger position to pre-switch. And we see teams do it all the time. The Raptors are more of an adaptive switching during the
Mhm.
action type of team, which they've been good at. But pre-switching, what teams will usually do is they'll try and pick out, like, you could go to like B-ball breakdown 2018. LeBron James
Mhm.
is 48 feet away and he's pointing at guys and they run
Yeah.
through a carousel of like three pre-switches and then they try and beat them. And in the regular season, that's not that viable because you're just burning clock. You're not prepared to do the grind every
Mhm.
single time and you're not giving it your all on the defensive end. So making a team spend time choosing the guy they want to attack, it can actually burn seconds off the clock, which is, what a lot of teams have been trying to do through other means. And it's why, mismatch hunting isn't necessarily the best thing to do over the course of a game, maybe in certain pockets where you're willing to really get after it. And the Raptors they could stand to pre-switch more. I think that's a good little nugget of wish list. Offensively, what are you hoping to see more from these Raptors?
I think this one's probably more controversial because the numbers don't suggest that this is a strong team to do so. But I still think they need just higher frequency in terms of their pick and roll ball handling. You need to give more simple actions for the team. Allow guys to try to get downhill and hopefully open up more shots across the board for four guys on the other side. Like we've already discussed this, role players on the team have a really hard time hitting threes and really hard time getting open threes just because rotations aren't happening. Jakob Pertlo's a great screener, and hopefully this happens when RJ Barrett is back. But they both Scotty and Jakob are very strong, which is why the Raptors are strong as pick and roll rollers, but their ball handlers just haven't been the greatest. I would love to see Brandon Ingram get a lot more of those actions, allow his playmaking in those actions to shine because the numbers do suggest that he's been good historically in those, and see what we can get out of doing that a bit more.
The pick and roll stuff is very interesting because the Raptors currently are in the 30th percentile league wide. So the bottom third, bottom 10 in the NBA in terms of how often they run pick and roll. And they're above average in their points per possession, as you said, because they have strong rollers, mostly because of Jakob Pertl, who
Yep.
his type of rolling, just catching a pocket pass from, 17 feet and in and using his footwork and slide step to be able to get to the rim for he shoots like 68% from the field, right? This is efficient scoring. It doesn't ask much of their point guards. What you could do, though, is you could, instead of asking Brandon Ingram, who's been one of the highest usage screen players, for example, over the course of this season, you could revert some of the pick and roll possessions to him and let him operate out of a spread pick and roll a little bit more and see how that goes. They do this a little bit more often with bench lineups, but
Mhm.
also a lot of this stuff ties in with, RJ leaves and the Raptors again. It also coincides with a slump that he's not attached to, but
Yeah.
there is some pick and roll usage that leaves. There's some contested shooting that
Mhm.
leaves. There's paint touches that leave, there's at rim finishing that leaves, and the Raptors were not able to find somebody to step into that. Like Jacoby stepped in and did great defensively. He shot the ball pretty well on catch and shoot threes, but he couldn't offer anything else really. He's had a terrible start to the year. He's not been able to offer anything. Ochai is like small potatoes, no usage. Where are they going to get this from? And what some teams will do is they'll bite the bullet and see like, okay, can Jacoby run pick and roll? Can Grady run pick and roll? Can these guys do it? And the Raptors have held off on that, probably because they thought RJ was going to come back sooner. He hasn't. That kind of stuff will go up over the course of the season as RJ comes back. To this point, though, we're talking about limitations on offense. You and I did that big episode about how, the Raptors offense is falling apart. I'm going to lay out what the Raptors are struggling at, not because of RJ missing, not because of any of these things. Just as a team, they don't seem like they'll be super strong at this. So the first thing I wanted to look at, because, Brandon has a lot of fans, and the same way that like Scotty fans will alert us to, I guess, like small things in his game, or Brandon fans, everyone was saying that, Brandon's playmaking could be a function of just hitting more shots for him when he's making passes. And so I wanted to like actually look into that and wonder if that was the problem. They are 60th percentile in the NBA shooting threes off of a Brandon Ingram pass, 1.16 points per chance. So that's fairly strong. Jameson is shooting 67%. CMB on low volume, 60%. Grady shooting 57% on threes, where Ingram passes it. Ochai 50, RJ 46, Scotty 35, but he's like 38 on the season. The guys really underperforming have been Sandro and Quickly, who are at 21 and 31% respectively. But I don't think guys just like hitting those shots is the solve. Brandon probably should be, as you said, put in more familiar playmaking spots so that he doesn't have an almost one-to-one assist to turnover situation. And that brings us to the other things that the Raptors struggle at. So I went to go look. I'm going long, by the way. I went to go look. The Raptors' offensive games, the better ones, are obviously correlated with better effective field goal percentage. You shoot the ball better, you finish better. There's also a huge difference in their free throw rate getting to the line and their turnover percentage. Now, this correlates perfectly with RJ leaving the team. Make of that what you will. Can he fix it all? Probably not, because they were one of the best jump shooting teams when he was there. I don't think that'll stick around. So the Raptors are middle of the pack at creating open triples, and they're the worst team in the NBA at hitting guarded catch and shoot threes. They're bottom 5 scoring out of spot ups. So what are we looking at here? How do you get more offense out of this team if guys aren't hitting contested looks? Do you say hit more of those? Some teams do. Do they have the talent to do so? Do you look at how often they touch the paint and drive, which is not often? Do you look at the fact that when they touch the paint, they're the number one team in the NBA when it comes to taking floaters? What does that mean? Guys don't rotate as heavy, so you don't create as many open triples. So a team that's really strong, that shoots 44% on unguarded threes, is getting less of those because the point guards aren't creating those deep paint touches. So you look at all of this, and I ask you, and I asked all our friends, who fixes this? Because RJ helps, but he doesn't fix this stuff. And that's where we start going to the wish list. Who fixes this to you? Is there even a name?
There's a few names, to be honest. I think through looking through almost 30 games with this team, it is very clear that they still lack a point guard, which is tough to say because they invested in a couple guards. Emmanuel Quickly's best play on the Raptors has been playing off the ball of somebody else. And that has hurt their offense in terms of how they dictate in terms of their playmaking and how they can create rotations and like get downhill, just simply because that just hasn't been a strength of their game. I think when you look at the league, there's like 3 guys, if you're really trying to go for it with this team, there's 3 guys in terms of guards who all drive fairly well and have somewhat value that you can rehabilitate and probably get for cheaper than you would have probably 12 months ago, which is Trae Young, LaMelo Ball, and Ja Morant. Of those three, and we just debated this. We do this all the time, actually.
Mhm.
Um, I think of the three, the safest bet of them is Trae Young. Although the defense is terrible, we made a whole podcast about how we stomped them in his terrible defense. His level of driving and playmaking is exactly what you want to pair with someone like Scotty, open up their game for several of their shooters. And you've already seen sort of a proof of concept of, can this type of player, alongside a strong back end defense, have playoff success? They already went to the Eastern Conference Finals with a team like this. And defenders like Scotty, healthy back Jakob, might be able to take you there with Brandon Ingram's playmaking and scoring sort of being this auxiliary thing instead of being your entire offense. I would like to see something like that.
So Trae Young, I'm out on, I think,
Okay. Well,
because the defense,
it's
I think
tough.
it's, and if you're gonna shake things up, I think you go higher ceiling. I think Trey has the highest floor of every player there.
Yeah.
I think
Agreed.
Jaw, I think Jaw has the lowest ceiling and the lowest floor of those selections. I think Lamelo Ball has the highest ceiling,
Mhm.
even though there is a lot of like goofball allegations to some of how he conducts himself. There is a real like unselfishness and verve and talent to how he plays. And despite not being great defensively, being 6'7" goes a long way, especially with how the Raptors like to defend. So I think LaMelo Ball is probably the best selection there. I think if it went well, I think it would go off without a hitch, but I'm skeptical of that. What I want to do is shout out to one of our favorite movies. I want to recreate what the Raptors are looking for in the aggregate. So my wish list is 4 different players that vary in what it would cost to get them, and they're each addressing a different thing. So Kevon Looney gets paid 8 million this year. He has a team option for 8 million next year. He's not giving the Pels what they're looking for, really. He and Yves Missy are currently like toggling between being the guy sometimes and not who comes
Mhm.
off the bench because
Yep.
you gave the science to the Pelicans. Mr. Queen, he stepped in. And Kevon Looney might be a guy who you could get an asset along with him to take him on from the Pelicans. It doesn't have to be a great asset, but there's a potential there. Now, what do you want Kevon Looney for? For if you don't actually believe that Sandro helps out as a backup five and want him more as like, a guy who can play the four sometimes, a guy who
Mhm.
plays the five in very specific lineups where you have Scotty out there too, and they can kind of cobble together front court defense and rebounding that way and make him more of a, like Sandro will obviously play more than Kevon, but Kevon is a guy who can step in when Jakob's hurt. An insurance policy that you could get alongside something else. He sets a lot of screens. He helps out on the glass. He's very familiar playing through like these quick action handoff sequences,
Yep.
his time with Golden State. That is the guy who is like very low risk. You Maybe it's Ochai going out the other way. And Ochai's a better player, but maybe you don't plan on re-signing him, yada, 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 right? The next guy is Trendon Watford, who I actually really like and think is underrated. He's on a minimum contract. He is a player who is on a team option for next year. I think he is a pretty good insurance piece for if Sandro walks next year, if he's on a
Mhm.
team option. Trendon, he helps out on the glass a ton. He is actually a very strong driver from the wing spot, and he has been a dependable low volume 3-point shooter over the course of his career. I think that he would be, if you're looking for any depth at the wing and you don't want to go looking for like something sexier, he's very low cost. I think he is an underrated player in the NBA. The same way Sandro clearly was showing he had more than like a minimum contract player when he came to the Raptors. Trendon, I think, could do something similar. Now, the two guys that I think you really have to ante up for, I'll wait till I get what you think of Trendon and Kevon.
Yeah. I think Kevon Looney is like a perfect fit. He's already played in an offense that's fairly similar. The Raptors have a rebounding issue when Jakob isn't able to play, and it allows Mamu to step into probably a role that fits his skill set a bit more. I think you lose some of like the offensive impact of him not going against fives, but some of those lineups are just aren't tenable in terms of their rebounding. And he's a guy that isn't going to take away shots from anybody else. He's going to grab a rebound. He's great on the glass, re-screen for Emmanuel quickly, and hopefully that opens up threes. So I I think that's a perfect fit. Trendon Watford, the Raptors, he's played tremendous against the Raptors, and he's a fairly good driver. They're a team that needs help in terms of their driving, so I think that's a good fit as well. I think with Looney, I think that would be a very easy trade to do. I think you could trade Ochai and get back Looney plus additional value, and you'd be happy with how that nets out because Looney isn't signed to anything long term and something that you can flip even next year.
Yeah. And both these guys are on team options. So if it goes nuts, you just say like, well, see
Yeah.
you. Glad we tried. And I don't think either one of them, it takes a bunch to get them in-house. Is, trying to build a team is
Mhm.
stressful work. Basketball can be stressful. But your choice of beer doesn't have to be, Trevon. Coors Light delivers mountain cold refreshment. Coors Light is cold lagered, is cold filtered, and cold certified for a smoother finish. This podcast, the Pull Up Trade podcast, is presented by Coors Light. Trey, it was the commercials. Seen it. I love a little. Everyone likes a little. I love when something changes due to temperature or
Yeah.
lights. The cold blue mountains, brother.
Yeah.
How often does a Coors Light accompany you on a fine sports watching day?
It's quite often. I feel like it's sports sports is a way where you try to disassociate from a lot of things and you try to relax and unwind, and something like Coors Light and having a beer is the same fashion. It's you at your most comfortable, at your most fun, like watching what you like to do.
A kickback. The chill choice is what I'm
Mhm.
told. For anybody wondering, you can find Coors Light at CoorsLightShop.ca or at a seller near you. And make sure to celebrate responsibly, okay? And you must be of legal drinking age. Nothing underage, please. Trey, the other guys on my wish list, these guys will cost something. I talked about this player with Lewis, Collin Sexton. Now he makes 18 million a year. He is just full stop one of the most efficient drivers in the NBA. He has a huge blow by rate. He brings help on a lot of drives. He creates assists at the rim, a ton of them. He finishes at the rim. He is a plus 3-point shooter. When you're giving the whole team to Colin Sexton, you're saying, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But if he's your sixth man off the bench, then I think you're really cooking with gas. You can see he's a very transformative player for the Hornets. I think he
Mhm.
can scale up to a better team with higher ideals or higher expectations of themselves, I should say. Colin Sexton, he also is a guy who, if he's not playing starter minutes, you can also use him as a press defense guy. You don't have
Yep.
to, but if you want to, uh, he battles on both sides of the floor. I think
He's a
he's
guy.
very fun there. Colin Sexton, what do you think?
Everyone knows, the Hornets are my Mr. Team, so I've watched a lot of Collin Sexton this year. He's tremendous, and he fits everything that the Raptors want to do and need. His 3-point shooting has improved steadily, and he's reliable from there. We saw him beat the Raptors with his jump shot, to be honest, and he's the type of athlete that they've been looking for quite a while. One of the reasons why Jamal Shed is so needed in his lineups, even what like some efficiency concerns, especially at the rim, is he drives and gets at least to the rim. Colin Sexton can get all the way to the rim, which will then create rotations and make bench lineups a lot easier and open up 3-point opportunities for guys like Grady, guys like Jacoby, and it makes their role. It's a compounding trade because it makes their role a lot easier. I think the challenge is the Raptors don't have many salaries in the middle, so it's very hard to pull off. They've kind of truncated everything into 3 or 4 guys at the top of their payroll, so
The
it'd be
big
tough.
thing, the big thing is that you have to say goodbye. If the Raptors, and the reports are that they're going to make a trade.
Yeah.
There's a trade coming, whether it's a big swing like Anthony Davis or something like that, who they're rumored to be interested in, or whether it's something a little bit more modest. You have to really get like this is what you and I talked about. teams don't stay the same as they improve. They improve with development, yes, but they also make trades and signings that displace and trade away guys who
Mhm.
teams used to think were going to be part of the future. You have to get really comfortable with the idea that one of the shooting guards, the glut of shooting guards, nobody's popped off like crazy yet, that one of those guys is going out the door in this
Yeah.
trade if in this trading season. And whether it's Grady, Jacoby, Ochai, I don't know. Jameson probably not, because I
Yeah.
think they like how low cost he is and how, he should be in the rotation when he comes back. It's just that's probably a situation that everyone has to come to grips with. The other
Yep.
guy I had was Devin Vassell. Now, Devin Vassell is a little bit like Mikal Bridges,
Mhm.
and that's why it's probably important if you're trading for Vassell that RJ Barrett doesn't go out the other side. But Devin Vassell has like no rim frequency. He doesn't get to the rim. What he
Yeah.
does have though is 39% contested three-point shooting, like combined over the past 4 seasons. He's actually been one of the highest contested catch and shoot shooters volume-wise in all of
Mhm.
the NBA, and when you do the, inflection of, like, volume and efficiency, he's probably been, like, a top 10 shooter, catch and shoot from 3 in the league. That is I mean, hell yeah, Devin Vassell, and he is also, I think, a plus defender. It isn't as good as people thought it might be coming out of college,
Yeah.
but it is good, and if the Raptors keep certain guys on the team, they might not have to worry about, the rim frequency as much. However, if they do want to help out guys like Brandon and Scotty who are slower drivers, who don't get the biggest help, but they wanna
Mhm.
you wanna punish rotation, but not huge rotation, contested three-point shot making, Devin Vassell could be, I think, incredibly helpful in that sense. None of these guys all fix things together at once, but each brings, a meaningful amount of help. Kevon may be the least of which, but you might even get something back for taking his salary on. I That's what helps the Raptors. Now, of course, you can go bigger. I
Of
know
course.
we might actually have to have like a really big conversation on an Anthony Davis at some point, but that's not for this podcast. I'm not sitting around wishing on an Anthony Davis. It's tough to predict those types of blockbuster trades, but Devin Vassell, how much have you seen of him? Do you like him at all?
Jamaican, so I've seen quite a lot. But um I think Vassell, he's in a weird situation too with them jumping up in the draft, and as they're improving, he seems like he'll likely be the odd man out because they're going to need a bit more size on the wing. At least in
They
my
got a few odd men out in San Antonio. Speaking of you
it's just
improve and suddenly things look a little different.
yeah, just suffering from success, man. It's just not fair. But um he would help like it it's sort of the concept of why they drafted Grady, a guy that that was brutal. A guy a guy with that size that can shoot and hit tons of contested shots helps the overall health of your offense because it is one extra player that can't rotate when they're on your side. So I think that would make sense for the Raptors, obviously, as well. It doesn't fix like their overall driving ability and how Vassell's going to get these shots, but what I think pairs with him better than Quickly or Grady to some degree is that he can really score off screens and off movement. So him getting and hunting for a shot is will be less dictated on whether the Raptors are able to improve as a driving team.
Who are the two? Because when I tell you that, like, he's first percentile, like, he does not shoot at the rim off of drives ever. It's truly Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
You get to pick 2 guys to join the Raptors out of this 4. Who are you choosing?
Hmm. I think Collin Sexton and Kevon Looney. I I think those address like they're realistic and too easy trades to make. Kevon Looney, it fills up your backup center role for the next 2 years. A guy that knows how to play within this offense. He could play in the Raptors rotation today or tomorrow, and it allows you to maybe in the second round this year, draft the big, develop him for the next year or two as you improve, and hopefully take that spot with Sexton. It's clearly an RJ trade. It's turning RJ probably into loose parts, most likely. But it addresses some of their issues in what they have in terms of their backup point guard, their driving ability, and it fits their style of defense that they want to play. It's a marginal move as they improve that he could be a plus guy coming off your bench, like similar to I think one of the really good things about the Pacers is that they had all these net margin moves that added to their overall top line, like getting like a guy like Obi Toppin,
Hmm.
which is like a world beater, but he's just like a good rotational player that just helps stack upon what you already have.
Yeah. And there's so many good players in the league waiting to be good because the Celtics, we've raved about their decision to trade for Derek White, a decision we wanted the Raptors to make.
Yep.
In their doing so, they did end up pushing away, well, further down the line, Aaron Nesmith. And Aaron
Yep.
Nesmith is a total heat pump.
Mhm.
Movement 3-point shooter, catch and shoot 3-point shooter, and also like a very stalwart defender. He fits that guy got traded and was looking to do things elsewhere, right? So it's about finding the gems. And I think the two best pairings of these guys are Devin with Kevon, because I think they would play well together. And I think Devin would also play very well off of Jakob and Scotty and Brandon and Trendon and Collin. I think Trendon and Collin could help you, especially if you're playing Sandro in the second unit and Jamal
Mhm.
Shed. I think that rim pressure would really help, like especially if it were Barrett, I guess going out for Sexton. I think it'd probably be like a first rounder plus salary, but I mean, I don't know. It's tough to build trades.
Yeah.
It's tough
Tough.
to build trades. I think Trendon and Collin could really revolutionize like a second unit of like we bash and smash, and we have some finesse around it. Um, Speaking of, that's my second. I know this was all, this is a lot of wishes technically, but it's under the umbrella. My second wish is bash and smash, is for Colin Murray Boyles to drive the ball a lot more over the course of this season. He was statistically and by the eye test one of the best drivers of the basketball in college basketball. And so this year he's about middle of the pack finishing at the rim when he drives. He gets there like 90th percentile. Like if CMB is driving the ball, he's going to be at the rim. And
Yeah.
his finishing percentages is about, middle of the pack. So that means good. The big thing that's tanking his driving efficiency is that the Raptors as a whole are shooting like 8% on his threes when he passes out. I don't think that will stay. I think like that doesn't make sense to me
Yeah.
that a team would shoot 8%, like the way that, I think Grady's shooting like 12% on passes from Scotty this year. Do I think that sticks around? No. You know what I mean? And he's shooting 57% on passes from Brandon. Is Brandon that much better passer? No. Uh,
Yeah.
I think CMB, the statistics will come around. But I think, especially if some of these trades aren't made, if you want a guy to give you a little bit extra driving juice, why not in a draft class where rookies are popping off and helping their teams all the time? Why not have CMB be the guy who you instill more confidence in and you say, look, you can take these guys off the dribble. You can get there. You can make it happen. I would love to see more of that this season. That would be, it would be transcendent. I would lift from the couch and start
Yeah.
floating, I think, if he had a big driving game.
I literally cheered when he finally drove. He drove in the last game. He got to the rim. He didn't score, but he got to the rim. Um, I with CMB, that was one of like the standout traits for him when we discuss him in like our draft pods. He for his size and build, he actually has a very strong handle. He's very quick. He can get to the rim. What we are hoping does translate is some of the finishing. He finished very well in college, and right now he seems kind of adverse to finishing against length. You see a lot of him holding the ball, being a bit more hesitant there. But what you saw against Miami is when he is active driver and he is involved within the offense, they're able to create a lot more open looks. He creates an open look for Grady. Grady misses it. He is shooting terribly on these. Grady misses the three, but it's an easy open look that is being created from a guy outside of this sphere of their starting group that has been essentially been essentially been given all of the
Usage, yeah.
they've been given all the usage and being expected to create for everybody. The Raptors have had a hard time really creating any usage, creating any playmaking outside of that. So I think at some point, which is why I said I think post All-Star game, you're going to see a breakout is they're going to need to go towards somebody. And I think in terms of playmaking, he's the next best person on the team to look at.
Yeah, it's been encouraging that he's hit open threes. Teams changed the calculus a little bit on him. They're closing out short, of course. These aren't big closeouts, but they are giving more of a closeout after he started the season, kind of hitting more of the prove 'em threes than not. And now he has to figure out how to navigate these new spaces in the court. But it's a bigger court now,
Yep.
and it's in the stats. His driving volume is still low, so you can, the stats are not definitive at all, but he has been able to drive his bigs to the rim. Now, the big thing is like finishing over the top. His touch has been elite. You can see his touch is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's hard as a 6'6", 6'7" guy to finish over centers, but this is where the craft comes in. CMB is a very talented mover. Be a guy who shifts weight. Be a guy who and I don't think this is too much to ask. Look at Andrew Nemhard. Look at even a Trendon Watford. These guys
Yeah.
know how to use their body to shift dudes and stay on balance as they drive. I think that this is something that CMB will develop. Hawkes is another good example of this, although Hawkes did not have a good time against CMB or Scotty, which is good news. Those are tough
Yeah.
guys to shift. I'm just waiting for him to establish his physicality. And I don't think he's been able to really successfully do that yet. And still, I think everybody who watches can really see it's there. Like it will come. And that's a huge boon of his game is dominating physically. And he's like, what, maybe he turned 21. He might still be 20.
Yeah.
He's a young guy. He'll be working on his body. It's good to expect great things of your number 9 pick. You told me he'd be going to the Hall of Fame by proxy of the selection number.
He literally has no other choice. He'd be ruining decades of history if he doesn't go to the Hall of Fame.
Jakob Poeltl might ruin it first. Yes, no?
Forgot he was 9. He would look a lot. It was tough. Actually, no. It was a part of greatness. He got traded for Kawhi Leonard. It still works.
Yeah, it still works. Yeah, because by the transitive property, he got traded with a future Hall of Famer for another future Hall of Famer.
In production has always come from this pick, baby.
Exactly. Yeah. And even the Andrea Bargnani trade, that's by the transitive property. He's a first overall pick. We're using transitive property in a bastardized way. I'm so sorry, everybody, but this is an inside joke. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here? We've left them with a wish list.
Yeah. I know we're not a Blue Jays pod, but Kyle Tucker, I'm begging you to make my Christmas. Please, I'm begging you to make my Christmas. I refresh it anytime I see a little Kyle Tucker news. I'm refreshing like, oh, it's today the day. Either break my heart or make my Christmas. No, I can't take the agony.
Who's the Kyle Tucker comp in the NBA? Because people say Kyle Tucker on a good year can be like a top 10 player. On a bad year, maybe he's like 30. Who is that?
Maybe. No, Donovan Mitchell's probably too high of a plane.
Dude, that's crazy. I was actually thinking Donovan Mitchell as the comp too, but I thought it might be a little too high.
The floor, it might be a little too high. Donovan Mitchell's never going to be the 30th best player in the league. Maybe, but see, Jaylen Brown is too low.
Yeah. Jaylen is, I got to give it up to Jaylen though. He's hooping, man. I went and looked at that team and I was doing a deep dive into the Celtics because the Raptors played them again soon. And the Raptors, I hated their showing against them last time. I really want this next game against the Celtics to be something special, at least close. And my God, Jaylen is doing so much heavy lifting. It's just 30 balls repeatedly. It's just 40% from downtown. It's just pull up, pull up, pull up. He's been incredible at getting to a spot, stop, pop. I got
it.
Jaylen Brown,
Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler.
Wow. Yeah. And Kyle Tucker is an analytics guy, good on both sides. Hooper?
Yeah, Hooper.
Wow.
I'll give him that. I'll give it to him.
Let's go. Okay, Kyle Tucker. We'll discuss you more if you sign in Toronto. If not, you may never get uttered on this podcast again, except for us to be like, no. Trey, outside of the Kyle Tucker thing, anything before we get out of here?
Happy holidays to everyone, and it's been a great year. We have more to come with the pod again. Prayers to Jamaica, donate if you can. Prayers to the Philippines, and again, happy holidays, and hope you guys are safe and sound and spending time with your family.
Hell yeah. Happy holidays. Safe sound. Everybody, if you want to take a break from being safe and sound and risk hitting the like button or the hype button or subscribing or commenting, let us know your Raptors wish list. We thank you very much for tuning in with us. From myself and Trevon, have a blessed day. Whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.